Agriculture checking back in out here early May. I want you to see this Lambsquarter. It is a natural, it's a weed to some people. This is one of the most healthy greens that you can find anywhere, period. It outdoes kale, it outdoes collard greens, or whatever you want to, turnip greens. The reason why is this is a deep-rooted nutrient accumulator. It pulls and goes down deep, mines up stuff, brings it up. Therefore, it's just full of vitamins and minerals. Amaranth is a little better, but it is hard to beat this Lambsquarter. You've got to figure this one out and eat it when you're weeding it. It's mild tasting. It's a little hard to, kind of a pain to wash because it's a little fuzzy and dirt sticks to it. Try to pick it clean if you can. You got to be eating this. You just can't beat it. And it comes up, and if you ever let it go to seed somewhere where you're willing to have it grow, you'll just have it for years. It puts out thousands and thousands of seeds. And it waits till it gets a little warmer and starts coming up. It's very stocky and it's very seedy. So get it when it's young. Don't let it mature. Don't let it drop seeds unless you're very sure you want them there. But eat that plant. It grows everywhere, coast to coast. It grows. I think they even have it in Alaska. Eat it. They call it wild spinach. So as I'm cleaning this out, I wanted to share. You can see this is where the water is. This side is much more lush. And you can tell by looking at what weeds you're getting, what wild plants you're getting. It'll kind of indicate your soil condition. The plants are trying to fix the soil. That's their job. The weeds are trying to fix the soil. That's why when you have a weed in a certain place, keep pulling it out, it keeps coming back. Weed's trying to do its job. Learn to look at what's happening, and that will help you understand what's going on with your soil. This was a lot more lush on this side. You notice it doesn't have the buttercups or the dock so much. It's a little shadier, a little wet up here. But even on this side, there's some buttercups down there. It's a little sunnier. The buttercups can handle a little less fertile soil, lower humus soil. They actually kind of prefer more of what the pasture would be like. They don't necessarily like super rich. They like moisture, but they don't need the richness of the soil. This is the back side of the berm, the lower humus. It's my porous soils on this left here. So you look at the species of wild plant you have. There's I believe that's going to be black medic. It's a type of clover. It's a legume. It can handle that more dry soil. It's growing on this side. The only places my sage plant survived is on this drier side. It's pretty much too wet in a lot of this garden for my sage. I had overseeded everything. Very little kale came up on this side. That's just my porous, driest soil as I'm weeding. It's a big clump of buttercups. So they're getting moisture because they're so lush, but the soil is poor. So look at your plants, especially early in the season. A lot of the stuff that comes up early in the season is edibles. It's self-sowing annuals. They come up really quickly. They're very lush. They like the early spring before the leaves come on trees. They really do their thing quickly. Like that dead nettle there. It is dying out. That gives me some indication of what's going on with the soil. It was pretty wet early, and now it's pretty dry. This is really a dry patch here. So I know that, so I would address that. First of all, I must bring fertility. This is the back side. You can just look at it. That red clay, Virginia clay. There's no humus in this. It's all mineral. It's all clay. So mineral's not bad, but you got to get some humus to get the right crops growing. For mostly food crops, they're going to need that higher humus and good moisture to do their thing. So even the kale, you can see where the kale kind of came in and kind of didn't. That little kale right there is struggling tremendously. That one, we got a little bit of one there. So anyway, I know I need to take this soil out, my compost that I've rototilled here. I'm going to put it up here, bring my fertility back in, but I'm also going to put something that can take a little dryness. That's pretty much just going to rely on rain, so maybe green beans, something along those lines. Hopefully maybe some vining like watermelons or butternut or something, I might put those through here, see how they do. I also wanted to show you another food source. This is kale. It was overwintered. Didn't do very well here. Hello, honeybee. But I wanted to show you on this kale, you see that flower top and the unopened flowers? That's basically like broccoli. You pick that. It's mild tasting. Does have the kale flavor. Not bad though. Especially raw. If you cooked it, put some butter on it, salt, whatever else you would do to broccoli. Not bad. So if you don't want your kale going to seed, you're more after the leaves, even late in the season like this, take that thing off and eat it. Don't cook it. It's food. It's nutritious. And there's plenty of it if you overseed like I do late fall. So that plant doesn't look great, but you can get some food off of that. So you take the top, Mr. B's done, eat that, then you're going to have more leaves because you keep picking the seed heads off, and that plant's not going to stop its progression and aging, and you're going to get more, slow it down, and you'll get more leaves off of it. So that's one little tip. I also want to show you as I'm weeding, got this pile of weeds, that will now be my mulch. I'll take this and just mulch as I go. Now I'm going to come back in here with hay later, and I'll put hay around all of it, and that'll help it even more. But you can see I use my handfuls of weeds and I just throw it in between. My strawberries start picking up about here. The moisture is a little better. I was saying that down the hill further is usually more moist. So this is moist enough, and it gets even better down that way. So I'm going to see how far I can get these strawberries to creep up this hill as I increase fertility. And we'll see what I can do about the water situation. Because I could put in a berm or a little sill across that, like a little mini dam, low water dam say. Across there, then I could push the moisture back up the hill and dam it up a little bit. And I could hold a little more moisture for this hill to absorb. And I can make the dam as big as I want, hold as much water as I want, but I don't want standing water. So, you know, maybe I do a 10-inch berm right there after I get the compost out. That water will slow down just a little bit. It's going to help this whole mound, because it's going to, instead of letting it go this way, it's going to try to come across grade. It's going to soak in, downgrade, and it's going to soak into this hill. It'll help all of this. And over the years, it'll become more and more lush by controlling that water. Because I actually get too much water down there and not enough water up here, so put in a dam. This is not on contour. Originally it was, but now I'm putting my low water dams actually exactly parallel to contour. That's going to hold my water uphill and push it in. And if you do it with this clay, it doesn't really wash out. You just want a nice slow trickle over a wider sill, a wider dam. The water comes over it, sheets over it, it's not going to erode. And if I do get some erosion, it's not hurt anything really, because it was just washing through here anyway. What I don't want is my big mounds washing out. So that's a way to start fixing this soil. Down here, as you see, it's fine for the kale. Fine for the strawberries. They're doing just great. Some more broccoli right there. Not really broccoli, but close enough. Pretty nice raw. Sorrel is trying to go to seed, so I excuse me. Oh, May allergies, love it. So anyway, I'm going to keep working on this. I'll show you some updates, but I'm definitely going to get some soil in here so I can do more crops. So this is a great sunny spot. Just need a little more moisture, a little more fertility. It's a great microclimate because the south is basically right that way. So this is a very warm, nice piece of dirt here. There's no trees in the way. I'll show you my comfrey aisle here. And my blackberries doing all right. We'll get some berries for sure. And I'm going to show you how to do some layering. This is a thornless variety. A lot of those are thorned varieties. Big mistake. Don't plant them. Go ahead and spring for the thornless. They don't grow as prolifically, but they're a lot nicer to manage. So I'm just going to bury those shoots along this. When I get this cleaned up, that way I can kind of replace all my thorned blackberries with thornless blackberries as I go. And you can see my layers there. I got some prunus, wild plum, and wild apricot. I mean, this looks like an apricot most likely. You can see them spaced out along there. See my nectarine, apples, another plum up there, wild apricot. Got some June berries in between. So I guess that was about it for now. Just wanted you to learn to look at your plants. I know it's kind of obvious, but not everybody thinks about it. Look at what's growing and it will give you an indication of what you need to do if you're trying to fix it. I want rich soil throughout my garden. I want it growing what I want. So this is not acceptable condition here. But this is only 2-3 years old. I might have originally shaped this part like 3 years ago and then kind of let it go wild for a couple. I put some corn in here, yeah, a couple of seasons ago. Limited success. Anyway, the point being it's time to improve this. I put the structure in first and let it do its thing, and now I know what I need to do. I'm the doctor, so I'm going to show up. Prescription is more humus and a little more moisture. And then we can put just about anything we want in here. I would definitely like to get my strawberries growing all the way up this way. This is a nice sunny southern exposure. Get some early berries, and the way to do that is to give them what they want. So I'll check in later when I start on that solar. All right, as I'm sitting here weeding, I'm thinking about, I was saying it's a good idea to keep an eye on the plants that are growing in certain areas, helps you understand your soil and what's going on. Well, another thing to understand is seasonally what's going on with the weeds. The first weeds that spring up in spring are generally edible. A lot of them. Definitely want to research them. They come up quick. They're nutritious. They're succulent. They like that cooler, wetter weather of spring. And as those die back, like you see the chickweed dying back, I showed you the dead nettles dying back. Even these buttercups, they're going to go to seed quickly, which I was going to mention, don't let those things go to seed. Get them out of there because they are prolific once they go to seed. And they usually don't look this big. They're usually struggling a lot more. At any rate, just keep them out of your garden for sure. But as the temperatures rise and the more soft-stemmed spring growth dies back, it gives way to a different type of plant that is made to survive the harsher conditions of summer. And it's also always trying, nature, the created order, is always trying to move things along towards the forest in most places. So you're going to start off with the quick seedy annuals that come up really quickly and cover the soil, stop erosion, start building the mats of vegetation, mats of humus. That's kind of what a weed is doing, is changing the subsoil into something more useful for the plants to come later on, the next steps, succession. The ones that come in the summer have different strategies. While as this is more of a spring plant, it's poisonous. So part of its strategy is to be very seedy and to be very poisonous, to grow rapidly, drop seeds. We don't like that in the garden. It's not edible. You want edibles in your garden, or at least medicinals. But that being said, a lot of this other stuff, the wild geranium, the cleavers, the clover, all of that. Clover is more of a perennial, but those are going to give way to stuff like this. Wild lettuce, or of some sort, so sow thistle, or sonchus, or the tuca, whichever that is. You get, I had shown you the starts of the lambsquarter, the amaranth, very, very deep rooted. A lot of times if those are not poisonous, they're very nutritious. But then you also get the really tough stem plants. You just can't pull them out. Part of their strategy is just very stringy, tough stems, and you just can't get them out. So they hang on, and we have a plant called Seeda that does that here, and you just cannot rip that thing out by the roots. Other plants like the thistles, they're thorny. They have barbed wire. They protect themselves. Cattle don't eat them, and so forth. That's helping bring vertical growth to the land. So the weeds in the summer are much worse, and they're much more persistent. The dock gets bigger, and you can keep pulling that thing out. It's so deep rooted, it's just hard to beat it. You got to dig it out, and even then, you may not get it. So sheet mulch that sucker if you have to. get it out of there. Or just keep picking it and feeding it to your livestock. But you got to keep it under control because it will get big and it's very seedy. So understanding there's a succession of plants and they're trying to take bare soil to forest. So the summer plants are a lot stemmier, taller, deeply rooted so they don't dry up and die. Just understanding what's going on, it gives you a lot of little insights. So use that information, just keep watching, become an expert on your land right where you're at, where you're working, and just see what the plants are doing, think about it, watch it year after year, and you can use that. One of the things I know is not to let certain things go to seed. You just don't want that to happen. So anyway, I'll be back with you later. So I pretty much have this bed where I want it for now. I'm going to bring in hay. First I'm going to move this compost in the drier parts. Try to get all the compost out of the road. Then I'm going to bring in hay to choke out the parts that are not going to have any plants. And then some of the other parts I'll let the plants grow and then I'll hay them later. I'm going to put a little bit of seed underneath my green stuff to see if I get some beans coming up or something. I wanted to show you that bubble wrap insulation, that foam covered bubble wrap. I like it. You could fold it to different sizes as you're working. Kind of help keep the dirt and the bugs off you a little bit. And it's comfortable enough, but the main thing is it's a barrier even when it's wet. Keep it more dry. And so I like it. I could fold it into quarters or just open it up all the way. I find it very useful. I just leave it laying around out here. It lasts a couple of years anyway, so it's not a bad little cushion. So anyway, this is the garden kind of done here for now. Needs a lot more work late in the season, but we just do what we can. And you can see all that chickweed's dying out on that other row. All that kale's gone to seed. So I'm going to let the kale go to seed, drop it, and see if it'll naturalize. And I'll do more with that after all that's more dead. It's got a nice mat. In a little better shape than this bed over here. Even though that back side again, this side facing us, the downhill side, it needs a lot of the fertility out of the row and up there. Got plenty to do.